Hey, I'm Fabian, this is Miles, my co-founder. There's a lot of new people here. I'm creating a spice and herb-based smoothie additive. Over the past 3 months, I've been documenting everything. This is part 3. Do not expect a ton of responses when you try and start a company during Thanksgiving. Chances are people are going to be taking a lot of time off, which doesn't necessarily help speeding up the process at all. But we're here and we're doing it anyways. Part 3 really focuses on all the actions I made over the past 5 to 7 weeks. The biggest things I did: 1, hire a regulatory consultant. Initially, I thought to myself, hey, I'll just learn everything there is to learn about FDA regulations, ingredients that I can have, claims that I can make. That turned out to be a pretty big undertaking. What I did instead was find a consultant to basically fast track all of the learning that I needed to have in order to launch this thing as best as I could, as quick as possible. The next thing I did was reach out to as many manufacturers as possible. Currently, conversations happening with manufacturers in New Jersey, in Texas, and in California. But I'm having a ton of them so I can balance quotes against each other. Some may have higher MOQs and a lower CPU, and the inverse may happen as well. But in order to really understand this industry and this process initially, the more conversations the merrier with manufacturers. It's never going to hurt to have that conversation with a manufacturer. Transparently, I kind of played the game. I'd ask my regulatory consultant the same questions that I was asking manufacturers and suppliers. And the inverse. The big thing on manufacturers, make sure that they have all of the certifications that really make them stand out in the manufacturer selection process. This includes things like their third-party GMP certification, example COAs, and terms and conditions for operating. This in tandem with basically getting the thumbs up from my regulatory consultant saying, hey, this is a good manufacturer and this is not a good manufacturer, helped me determine which ones I should really go after. And the last thing, even before selection of the manufacturers, making sure my blend was finalized to the point where I was ready to go to a manufacturer and say, hey, this is kind of what I want to create. What can you do? A lot of the conversations we've been having recently have been around, we may not have this amount, we may not have this in organic. In order to use this specific ingredient, you have to have a certain volume with it within your blend, so the cost goes up. But having a basic understanding of what you want, and then hopefully identifying the right manufacturer to work through that blend to make sure it aligns with what they have in their library and ultimately what you want to create, is really important, obviously, in the selection process. And I know I talked about this in part 2, but continue having the conversations. Likely over 100 conversations about this, pitching my idea, continuing to talk the talk around my idea, what I want to create and why I want to create it. First half of the parabola, where for a lot of this process, I had the initial excitement, right? And then I've been in this trough of sorrow recently where I've had to figure out a lot of things and do things for the first time almost on a daily basis. For the Good Things Company, I've coined this book our brand book. As long as you're making progression on a daily basis, that may not feel like a lot, it still is meaningful. Oh, by the way, our website is live, goodthingsco.com. I'd love for you to sign up with your email so I can send you a weekly update on Friday where I do a little bit more of this, but in a little bit more detail. There you can find my favorite smoothie recipes, the training that I'm doing preparing for 5 marathons next year, and a little bit more about my story and why I'm doing this.